Most dungeons follow rules, monsters spawn, adventurers fight, boss appears, but this dungeon started breaking its own system. Adventurers disappeared, monsters began acting strangely, and somewhere inside the labyrinth, someone had already become the dungeon's new master. And Caleb was about to walk straight into it. The tavern smelled of cheap ale and desperation. A man in royal uniform stood apart from the drinkers. He wasn't there to celebrate, he was waiting. For a resurrection scroll, for a miracle, for time he didn't have. Nearby, adventurers laughed casually about dungeon schedules. They spoke with confidence, because they didn't know the impossible had already happened beneath their feet. Then the first floor gate opened. It never opened for exits, never. The tavern fell silent. Someone had cleared the impossible. In the underground management chamber, mana pressure dropped. The air twisted. The gate flared violently. Something came through, not a hero, a severed head. Red hair, back attack. The criminal rogue. It rolled across the stone floor. Behind it, a corpse. Abyson. Then finally, the living. Caleb stepped through the vortex. Expression flat, a sack of gold in one hand. Yernil behind him, clean, alive. Unbelievable. 2 slaves had hunted a high-value rogue and cleared the floor. No ceremony, no speech. Caleb looked straight at the priest. 8,000 gold. And then his body gave out. Adrenaline faded. Potions hit their limit. He collapsed. When he woke, stone had become wood. A recovery ward. Alive, the priestess explained. Drug poisoning. Too many healing potions. Rookies overdose by mistake. Veterans do it on purpose. Callum sat up. Where's my money? She pointed to the sack. He counted. 7,850. He stopped. 150 short, medical fee. He hadn't asked for treatment, but Yernil had. Kindness in this world came with receipts. He glared at her. She avoided eye contact. He shifted topics. The bodies. Abyson being revived. Success. Back attack. In the morgue. Soul not preserved. Resurrection impossible. Callum paused. They didn't know what he knew. The Labyrinth master hoarded souls, stored them. If they found the jar and brought it to the soul resting place, even criminals could return. The priestess stared. The soul resting place was myth. To Caleb, it was just another map location. He gave them the information calmly. Knowledge was leverage, gold secured, time to end something older than the dungeon. They went to the Magic University. Caleb slammed the gold onto the administrator's desk. Freedom. The man adjusted his glasses. 3,000 gold per person. Caleb had enough. More than enough. Yernil clasped her hands, hope shining in her eyes. For the first time, no chains, no ownership, no fear. Then the administrator opened another book, Contribution Ledger. Freedom wasn't just purchased, it was calculated. Every spell, every kill, every decision. Caleb had led, Caleb had cast, Caleb had orchestrated. Yernil had followed. The administrator looked up, emotionless. Yernil's contribution, 2 gold. Silence. The number hung in the air like a verdict. She couldn't afford freedom. The light drained from her face. Caleb stood there, with enough gold to free himself twice over. While she remained property, the system was perfect, mathematical, cruel. Those who act own the future. Those who follow own nothing. And for the first time since entering the labyrinth, the dungeon wasn't the most ruthless thing in Caleb's world. The numbers didn't add up. Caleb stood before the administrator demanding logic. If freedom was mathematical, then explain the math. The administrator, Jacob, didn't argue. He summoned the scales of equity, a cold, magical instrument. No opinion, no sympathy, only calculation. The scales materialized between them. They tipped violently. Caleb's side glowed, 27,148 gold. Yernil's side flickered weakly, 2 gold. Silence. Her hope cracked instantly. Caleb argued. Yernil crafted the poison arrow. She processed the fang. Without preparation, the rogue would still be alive. Jacob answered without emotion. The system rewards the killing blow. Preparation is invisible. The scale recalculated. After deducting state-provided meals, Yernil's net profit, 1 gold. This wasn't incompetence, it was design. Slavery wasn't about chains, it was about accounting. But the process wasn't finished. To verify their story, lie detection magic activated. A red circle glowed beneath Calem's feet. Every word would be judged. No lies, no embellishment. Calem understood the danger. He began recounting the dungeon. Carefully, surgically, he described Yernil's role as minor. He minimized her agency. She fired 2 arrows under my command. Yernil stared at him, hurt, confused, reduced. The scales adjusted. Her contribution rose, 20%, 2,925 gold, a miracle and a tragedy. Freedom cost 3,000. She was short, 75 gold, 75, a number small enough to taste, too large to ignore. Yernil wept. She looked at Calem, waiting, hoping. Jacob offered no comfort. The average slave earns 500 gold before death. She is fortunate. Fortunate. Calem didn't reach for his pouch. He didn't negotiate. He made a decision. Process my freedom. 3,000 gold. Paid instantly. Magic flared. His status shifted. Free citizen. Yernil's collar remained. She was escorted away, her eyes wide. Calem, he didn't turn around. Survival first, emotion later, or never. Now free, the world changed tone. Jacob's posture shifted. He wasn't speaking to property anymore. He was speaking to talent, a chantless caster, high-speed execution. Magic University could not ignore that. Doors opened, opportunities offered. The same system that crushed Yernil now courted Calem. He was introduced to Professor Melanie, then to the Dean. The old man studied him carefully. What is a mage's true duty? Calem answered conventionally. Spell development, monster extermination. The Dean dismissed it. Trivial. The real enemy was the possessed, interdimensional intruders, the cause of dungeon bursts, the chaos, the corruption. The Academy had formed a dedicated faction to hunt them, to eliminate them. The irony cut deep. They were inviting Calem to hunt himself. The Dean leaned forward, smile twisting. Surely, you are not one of them? The room went still. Calem froze. The red circle still glowed beneath his feet. Lie detection magic remained active. If he lied, the spell would scream. If he told the truth, they would kill him. He stood in the heart of the institution, surrounded, and 1 word away from execution. Silence was the only move left on the board. The red circle hummed beneath Calem's feet. Lie detection magic, still active. The Dean's smile never faltered. Surely, you are not one of the possessed? It wasn't curiosity, it was a blade wrapped in silk. If Calem lied, the spell would scream. If he told the truth, they would execute him. For the first time since entering this world, he had no clean move. He had defeated monsters, he had outplayed contracts. But politics didn't care about cooldowns. He realized his mistake too late. He had assumed danger waited in dungeons, not behind polished desks, not in high-backed chairs, not smiling. The pressure tightened, and then a knock shattered the room. The doors opened, silver hair, relaxed posture. A young man walked in as if he owned the air. He spoke casually about club scouting, harvest reports, anything but the execution about to occur. The red light beneath Calem's feet flickered, then faded. The spell had expired. Perfect timing. Not early, not late. Exactly when it mattered. The Dean's face twisted, but the moment was gone. Outside the office, the hallway felt breathable again. The newcomer introduced himself. Clarence, older brother of Avison. This wasn't charity, it was repayment. He knew the Dean had violated Academy law. Truth spells without formal approval were illegal. Clarence hadn't interrupted randomly. He had waited for the exact second the interrogation became vulnerable. That wasn't kindness. That was precision. But rescue came with strings. They didn't go to safety. They went to another office. Professor Isilov. If the Dean's room felt like a slaughterhouse, this one felt like a chessboard. Isilov didn't smile wildly. He analyzed, measured, calculated. He explained the truth of the Academy. It wasn't united, it was fractured. 3 factions, 3 philosophies. First, Meldini's faction. the purists. To them, the possessed were disease, exterminate on sight. No exceptions. Second, Isilov's faction, pragmatists. The possessed weren't enemies. They were tools. Assets to explore the maze, regulate them, control them, exploit them. Third, Dahlstream's faction, the believers. They saw the possessed as soldiers, warriors fighting a hidden war against the Labyrinth master. Saviors, not invaders. Callum kept his face neutral, but when Dahlstream's legend was mentioned, his blood ran cold. An ancient manuscript described a specific mage, a being immune to the maze's madness, a magician capable of freezing the physical world while remaining conscious inside it. They called him the Turn-Bound Mage. The room remained calm, but inside, Callum understood. The hourglass wasn't unique. It was recorded, studied, feared, worshipped, and hunted. Isilov dismissed the legend. Fairy tale, incomprehensible nonsense. That dismissal saved Callum's life. As long as the professor didn't believe, he wouldn't investigate. Then came the offer. Join Isilov's research club. Help track anomalous souls, specifically back attacks. The irony was elegant. Callum could search for a soul that no longer existed. He would hide while pretending to hunt. Protection, access, resources, a legal identity. He accepted immediately, but added one condition. He wanted the right to form and lead his own party. Isilov agreed, thinking he had secured a useful pawn. He didn't realize he had just handed control to a strategist. That night, the dormitory door closed behind him. Luxury, private suite, hot bath. Hours ago, he had stood inside an execution circle. Now he soaked in polished marble. The transition was absurd, but survival is absurd. He leaned back into the steam, quest complete, slave status removed. Criminal suspicion neutralized, academy enrollment secured, all within 24 hours. It looked like victory, but Callum knew better. This wasn't a triumph. This was the end of the tutorial. He had entered the real game, and inside these walls, the enemies smiled. Tomorrow he would retrieve Yernil, rebuild his party, and begin climbing the academy hierarchy. But now the turn-bound mage wasn't just surviving. He was visible, and visibility always invites hunters. The lecture hall buzzed with wasted potential. Not insects, students, future corpses who thought theory was optional. Professor Dahlstream spoke calmly about spell slots, 3 memory spaces. Most students saw limitation. Callum saw ammunition. 3 slots weren't a cage, they were a revolver. It only mattered what bullets you loaded. The topic shifted to spellbinding. Combine weak spells, create something stronger. The room filled with predictable ambition. Fire plus fire equals bigger fire. Linear thinking. That's how you die on floor 1. Callum dipped his quill. No hesitation, no experimentation. This wasn't discovery, it was execution. First, dust shot. Second, heat wave. Third, humidify. The girl beside him scoffed. Why waste a slot on moisture? She saw magic as raw force. Callum saw chemistry, dust, heat, humidity. In a confined space, that's not steam, that's an explosion. Mana surged, the memory book trembled, the bind locked in. Tier 1 trash became Tier 2 devastation, dust explosion. The invisible system confirmed it. Success, area devastation, chain reaction potential. He didn't stop. Scorch, a spell that induced exhaustion and heat stroke. Thundercloud, lightning-charged storm generation. 3 slots, 3 Tier 2 disasters. Dust explosion, scorch, thundercloud. With the hourglass, these weren't spells. They were guaranteed executions. Class ended. Preparation began. He purchased a lightning wand. Dual wielding. Layered damage. He wasn't building a student loadout. He was building a siege kit. Then he left the academy. The Adventurers Guild courtyard was loud, desperate, transactional. And that's when he saw her. Yernil. Rope around her wrist, dragged like livestock. To the crowd, she was inventory. To Callum, she was misallocated potential. Not this timeline. He stepped in front of the trader, no shouting, no threats, just arithmetic. He had recovered Averson's body, guild rules required compensation, authorized by Clorence, 100 gold. The trader hesitated. Gold spoke louder than authority. Caleb redirected the payout, not to himself, to the transfer. Ownership papers changed hands. Cold, efficient, legal. The rope loosened. Inside the guild dormitory, silence. Yernil trembled, waiting for cruelty. She had been trained to expect it. Caleb cut the rope. "I missed you." She didn't understand what that meant. He missed the asset, the synergy, the scaling potential. "There are two ways to become free," he said. "First, claim the recovery fee yourself, 100 gold. Her eyes widened. Hope flickered. "Second, join my party. No sentiment, no theatrics. Explore the maze, split rewards, earn freedom." He extended his hand. Not romance, not salvation. Recruitment. Yernil stared at him. This wasn't ownership. This was employment. Terrifying, hopeful, strategic. "I want to be your companion," she said, grabbing his hand. "Perfect. Spells secured, equipment upgraded, party reassembled." The tutorial was over. Now they were building a war machine. The academy thinks he's a talent. The factions think he's a resource. The nobles think he's suspicious. And now he has his archer back. Floor 2 won't be a dungeon. It'll be a battlefield. To Yernil, a warm bed meant safety. To Caleb, comfort was maintenance. You don't reward tools, you maintain them. Peace was temporary, always. The door opened. Yernil screamed. There was a corpse standing in the room. Caleb didn't flinch. He had used the necromancy scroll intentionally. The dead do not lie. They do not hesitate. They do not betray. The corpse was Henry. 12 years ago, during the Great Dungeon outburst, 3,000 monsters flooded the city of Sohen. The blame fell on one man, a possessed hiding in the slums. They hunted him. They brutalized him. They called it justice. Caleb called it convenient. Inside Henry's preserved memory, one final message remained. Encrypted, left only for someone who shared the curse. Watch out for Magic University. Not the dungeon, not the nobles, the university. The institution training heroes. The implication was catastrophic. Professor Isilov thought he assigned research, track a lost soul, investigate anomalies. To Caleb, it was cover, official permission to dig into rot. If the university was corrupt, he would find it. But first, he needed a wall. The recruitment hall was loud, adventurers lined up, egos polished, skills exaggerated. They wanted to join the genius slave mage. Caleb watched, unimpressed. Talent wasn't rare, control was. An arrogant mage strutted forward, flashy, confident, replaceable. Caleb rejected him instantly. He didn't need another damage dealer, he needed durability. Someone to absorb mistakes, someone to hold the line while he controlled time. Then came desperation. A monk, simple robes, no weapon, no armor. The crowd laughed. A monk tank? Suicide. The man introduced himself, Virtanen, voice trembling. He claimed to have been Bakatak's comrade, loyal to the man the world despised. Yernil recoiled. Between the undead Henry and this grieving monk, she saw madness. She begged Caleb to refuse him. She believed parties were built on trust and reputation. Caleb built parties on utility. He tested the monk. Lift the barrel, no speech, no theatrics. Virtanen lifted it, easily. But strength wasn't the real test. Caleb watched him kneel beside Henry's corpse, crying. Not from fear, from loyalty. In a world where betrayal is currency, a man loyal to a corpse is a man who won't run. That's not weakness. That's anchor weight. The lizard man paladin scoffed. The crowd mocked. Caleb made his decision. He didn't need a hero. He needed a believer. Welcome to the party. The monk bowed his head. The tank was secured. Yernil stared at the new formation. A necromancer possessed. A grieving monk. A turn-bound strategist. This wasn't a party. It was a loaded weapon. The academy believes they're studying anomalies. The factions believe they're controlling assets. But Caleb just built something dangerous. A party bound not by trust, but by necessity. And necessity always wins.